Rav has to open his microphone because we do not hear you.
So Baruch Hashem, we had a beautiful simcha, and it's my schus, 2 Shabbosim, 1 Ofru for 1 HBrachos. I was away from my home, and both Shabbosim, there were huge Harbotzes Torah. So wherever I come, I gave a shiur Friday night, another shiur Shabbos afternoon, both Shabbosim, and if we could combine personal family simchas with Harbotzes Torah, really is a great schus. So once again, happy to be together with you, and I think this week's topic is an extremely important topic, Tefillah, and especially Tefillah ala Cholim. To our dismay, there are so many people, young people, who are tragically ill, and we're never misyayish makoyach tefillah. And Chazal teach us, Yispalel odom velo na'ana, ma yaseh, yachzor v'yitpalel, kaveh Hashem, chazak v'yametz libecho, v'kaveh el Hashem. Tefillah ala cholah. So the first question we ask is, Tefillah ala cholah unique beyond the mitzvah of Tefillah? So, Rabbi Gottesman, I would suggest, I looked over the Mara Makoimis, and we will just advance. We won't hop from one source to the other. We'll just advance according to the source sheet. Starting go for the Gemara and Brochus, Lamed Daled Amud Aleph. We find the same drosh in Safri. Omer Rav Yankov, Omer Rav Chizda, Kol ha'mevakesh rachmem al chaveiro, yein tzorech la'aski shemoi. Shenemar, eino rafono lo, v'lo kamitka shemo de Miriam. So let me share a revelation with you from the Ostrovtzer Rebbe. I don't know whether you're all familiar with the Ostrovtzer. My great Rebbe, the Kloisenberger Rebbe, saw himself as a Talmud of the Ostrovtzer. I'm getting up from my seat. I just want to bring to where I'm sitting a volume of Shalas Teshuvos Divrei Yatziv. Divrei Yatziv is the Shalas Teshuvos of the Kloisenberger Rebbe, and show you something interesting. I'll be right back. So, do you see me? Reb Shlomo, do you see and hear me?
Perfectly.
Okay, so this is the Shalas Teshuvos Divrei Yatziv. And in the short introduction that the Kloisenberger Rebbe dictated, could you read this, or is it not really?
We cannot read it from the Rav's screen, but we have the ability to put it
Okay,
here.
so open up the first page after the Maftechus, right after the Maftechus.
For Pesach, you're going to have to do some good work here. The first page after the Maftechus.
Yeah, you need to about 5 pages. Just flip 5 pages forward, fast forward. Scroll down, 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 down.
It doesn't work that quickly, but Pesach, try to follow the Rav's instructions. He's doing his best. Computers.
No.
Don't always. Yeah, keep on going.
No, it's not. Okay.
Too far.
No, that's Chelik Beis.
I'm sorry, give me Chelik Beis. I'm trying to get Chelik Aleph.
Okay.
Trying to get Chelik Aleph. I'm so sorry. It didn't come up.
Maybe it's in Chelik Beis as well. Go back 1 page. 1 page back. 1 page back. Could we go one page back? Or we don't have it?
And we have it, it's just the computer, it seems it can't be on this program, it can't be just scrolled back. You have to go find the individual page. That's what causes the delay. Let's go to Chelik Aleph, because it seems that,
Chelik Aleph.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm clicking on Chelik Aleph and it's not opening
Okay,
up.
no
for
difference.
me.
It's not really that
Let
important.
me
So let
try
just
it
check.
again.
This Sefer did not come out during the Klozmer Rebbe's lifetime, because neither did the Divrei Chaim print Shuvas while he was alive. But the Rebbe did dictate a short introduction, which he wrote in his handwriting. And he writes that as a child, his father, the Rudnik HaRav, told him that when he's going to become a big man, he's going to write Shuvas. And he wants him to call the Sefer Divrei Yatzev. Yatzev is Rosh Tevis Yekesir Yehuda ben Tzvi. And then the Rebbe writes, when I got a faher by the Ostrovtzer Rebbe, he told me, when you're going to be big, I want you to write Shuvas Halocha Lamaisa. And the Rebbe saw that as a testament, as a tzavor. So the Ostrovtzer Rebbe was a great Ilui, and he was a genius in numbers and gematrias. So let's go back to the Gemara in Brochus Lamed Aleph, first source on our sheet.
and now I think he was able to find the Divrei Yatzev. Let's see if it comes up.
Okay, let's see.
And
Right after the Mafteches.
now we went back to the thing.
Okay, so let's continue. You know, you could check the Divrei Yatzev. It's not that important. So Rav Chisda says, if you daven, you don't need to mention a name, because neither did Moshe Rabbeinu. He just said, "Oh, here we are." So this is the Klozmer Rebbe's short introduction. Yadati mach erki she'eni roi leis be'mechaber sforim b'toyre gdoishu b'frat ba'alocha. Ach bekatnusi omer rai kvoit kedishas ama kishetigdal v'techaber chibu tikra shemoy divrei Yatzev b'oni ramas shemoy kodesh v'gam sheni. So Yatzev is Rosh Tevis Yekesir Yehuda ben Tzvi. Ukeshamadeti lebchine lefnei Agon HaKodesh. Moran Reb Meir Yechiel Alevi Ma'os Ravtza. Nosen li ksav yad kodshon. Ben advorim shamo שיודע להישבע הלוכה, אומר לי בזה הלושן. דע שכוונוסי שתכתוב תשובס להלוכה, שיהיה לטוב ולישראל. וזה סמיכוסי שבקדושוסם וצדקוסם הוא עומדס לעד, יניחני השם הטוב בספוס אבויס הקדושים, שלא יתצא את הכל החס ושולם מזה. So, the Ostrovtzer was an amazing gadol, besides the fact that he was a huge tzaddik. He fasted 40 years, and he only ate every night. From Alois Shachat to Seisa Kechovim, he was betanis. So the Ostrovtzer has an interesting Gemara. Refono is Begematria 332, and that is the exact Gematria of Miriam and Yocheved. So yes, Moshe Rabbeinu didn't mention the names, but the Derech Remez, if you could just make a note, Rafono, Rafo is 281, No is 51, equals 332. Miriam plus Yocheved, 290, plus 42 is 332. The two words, Rafono, equal the gematria of Miriam bas Yocheved, Miriam and Yocheved. So that's a remez of mentioning names. And as we will see as we continue in this sugya, the presence of the choyle doesn't need to mention his name, but if you daven not in the presence of a choyle, you should mention the name. And if Rafono equals Miriam and Yocheved, it proves that when you daven for a choyle, you should mention his mother's name, not father's name. So our topic today, is there a specific mitzvah davening for a choyle? So we must start off with the Machlokes Rambam and Ramban. is there a Bechlal a mitzvah d'oraisa of Tefillah? Source number 2, Rambam Sefer HaMitzvah, שציוונו לעובדי יסעלה, וכבר נכתוב ציווי זה פעמיים, ועבדתם את השם אלוקיכם, עושי תעבודו, ואומר ועושי תעבוד, ולעובדו בלב שלם, ואף על פי שזה עצובי גם כן מן הצווים הכוללים, יש בו ייחוד שהציבו בתפילה, ולא של ספרי, לעובדו זו תפילה. The source is a ספרי, but it's also in the Gemara, in Masechet Tanis, the base Amud Aleph, the beginning of Masechet Tanis. Rambam Hilchos Tefillah, Perek Aleph Halacha Aleph, Mitzvah Aseh L'Spalel B'chol Yom, Shenemar V'avadetem Es Hashem Elokeichem. Me'pi Shmuel Lamadnu Shezu Tefillah. Comes along the Ramban, and the Ramban disagrees with the Rambam. אין הסכמה בזה, שכבר ביארו החכמים בגמור תפילת דרבנן, כמו שאמרו בשלישי של מסכת ברכות לעניין בלקרי, קריאת שמע מבורך על המוזוין, because that's מן התורה. But he's put him at tefillah because tefillah is derabanan. And now the Ramban writes, Olomar, maybe, and this is a big maybe, Olomar, שמכללו avoida שנלמד תורה ונספל אליו בעיס הצוריס, ותהיינו עינינו ולבנו אליו לבדו, כי אין נעבודו על יד עיניהם, כמו וכי סבויה מחומו על ארצכם, ועם מצווה על כל צורה וצורה שטובוי על הציבור. Now, the Ramban specifies, it is only a tzora shetovoi al hatzibur, not individual, not personal. So this is not a source that you need to daven for a choila. The Ramban is masmech this halacha on Parshas Baloischo in a time of war. V'niskartem lefnei Hashem Elokeichem. So according to the Rambam, there's a mitzvah to daven every day. According to the Ramban, b'shas tzora, but only tzora satzibur. So our question is still unanswered. Is there a specific mitzvah to daven for cholim? Sefer Hasidim. Scroll down. מפני שיסור הרעבים זה לזה, לכך כשצער בו על אחד חיובים כולם להצטער ולהספלל. And he bases this Yesod on a posuk in Tehillim, not Toras Moshe, not the Chumash, but rather Tehillim. Va'ani b'charutam, when they are ill, levushi sak, tfilosi al cheki toshuv. Ve'im lo yehoyu mispalel hayachoteh. And that's the posuk of Sefer Shmuel. Chalila li machtol Hashem machadol liitpalel ba'adchem. So Sefer Hasidim does write, there's a specific mitzvah to be mispalel ala choila, but that is not min Torah. It is learned from Sefer Tehillim and from Sefer Shmuel, not from Toras Moshe. So we continue.
So Divrei Kabbalah, in other words.
Divrei Kabbalah, right. Two psukim, Shmuel, Tehillim. So let's move forward. Next source. It is an integral part of mitzvahs Bikkur Cholim, which we learn both Rambam, Tur, and Shulchan Aruch. Rambam, Perek Yudalad Melchus Avel. Shalom Sarala. So the Kala just walked in, and because we have a mitzvah to be Machaven and Mesamech Achosn and Akana, I just said hello. Rambam. הנכנס לבקר הסחוי לא ישב, לא ילגע בביטה ולא על הכיסא ולא ילגע בספסל, ולא ילגע במקום גבוה ולא למעלה מראשיסו. מסעתה ויושב למטה מראשיסו, ומבקש עליו רחמים. So the Rambam writes, an integral part of Bikkur Cholim, מבקש עליו רחמים. I don't know whether we have the Torah on our source sheet, but the Torah goes a step beyond the Rambam. And the two writes, that's the Ikar mitzvah of Bikkur Cholim. Could we scroll down?
We have the Mechaber and the Ramah.
Okay. But I lost your page.
Yeah, or Pesach, if you can put it back on, please. He's probably went to look for the tour in the machine, but
No, instead of seeing the sources, I see 1,000 windows now. Okay, we're back to the sources. Scroll down. Let's have a look at the Shulchan Aruch and the machine Lamed Hey and Yoredeya. In the halachas of Biker, it's Cholim. Here we are. Ema vakas Cholim given Shabbos Shoynes. V'lo given Shabbos Achronos. And the Shulchan Aruch, following the footsteps of the tour, explains why. Ema vakan Cholim given Shabbos Shoynes. Shekol Cholim make Cholim Baboik. V'lo Yochos Levakat Ulachlachim. You see him in the morning. Usually, people feel better in the morning hours. So you're not really going to daven because he's going to seem to be fine. Gimel achronis, machbad olav chaliyoi, and you might just be in such despair that you won't daven for him. And that is why Chazal dictated the hours of Bikur Cholim, you should daven. And then the Ramah writes, Kol shebiker v'loi biker shulav rachem lo kiyem ha-mitzvah. That is a halacha that most of us aren't aware of. So this morning I had a Bikur Cholim. I went to see 2 people in Shari Tzedek. The Ramah writes, if you don't daven for a person, you're not even Mekayim b'mitzvah. Most of us think Bikur Cholim is just about making a person happy, which is important. But the Ramah writes, Kol shebiker v'lo bikesh olav rachem lo kiyem mitzvah.
on the spot.
No, not necessarily, but definitely samach v'nera, because we see in the Shulchan Aruch that the mitzvah of Bikur Cholim is to have a personal impression, to see that the person is ill, to see that the person is in pain. So it doesn't mean you need to take out a tehillim and start shuckling while you're in the hospital and in the presence of the chayla. But you could say a quiet tefillah in your heart, or when you leave him, but not next morning. The Ramban is obviously the source. Shamin and Mocha, the Bikur Cholim, Kadesh Yechabdo Biyar, Besurafona Beyasla, Slochan Atzlichim Lecholioi, Beyemot Zenachas Ruachem Chaverov. Yes, it's about making a person feel good, seeing what he needs, trying to be helpful. V'oid Kadesh Yechaven Dater Lerachamim Biyavakei Shalom. So then Ramban makes it clear there are 2 objectives in Bikur Cholim. First of all, maybe you could be helpful. Maybe you need something. And also to daven. Now that some Sofer comes up with an amazing pshat in a Doron Daf Mem. So the Rambam writes, there are many mitzvahs which are defined as Milas Chasodim Begufoi. One of them is Bikur Cholim. And the Rambam, and some Sofer brings the halacha that without B'koshes Racham, you're not Mekayim the mitzvah. And the Chassam Sofer has an amazing idea. Why is it a mitzvah to do Bikur Cholim? Because when you daven in the presence of a cholim, you don't need to mention his name. But if you daven not in the presence of the cholim, you need to mention his name. Now let's have a look 6 lines from the bottom of the Chassam Sofer. V'kosvu amikuboli. Ki yesh ba'askora shmoi k'tsases oireres adin olav. אף על פי שמכל מקום קורב לשכר על ידי התפילה, מכל מקום לפעמים יקקצייס הפסד על ידי אזכור שמאי. So the Chassam Sofer quotes Mekubalim. Whenever you mention a person's name in tefillah, it's ma'orer minasan. So some people, if it's a chodesh she'ein bo sakona, prefer not mentioning your name, because if his life is not in danger, it might not be beneficial. I think we should daven even for a chodesh she'ein bo sakona, but not when he has a runny nose or a slight cough, because according to the Chassam Sofer, there's a trade-off. If you need to mention a chodesh name, it could be ma'orer midas adin, and that is the benefit.
Could the Rav explain that? What does it mean by being ma'orer dinim?
Oh well, Could I explain it? My honest answer is no. But we are aware there is midas harachamim and midas hadin. When we daven, we'll try to be ma'ora midas harachamim. When you do a bad deed, you provoke midas hadin. So the Samsar writes of Pikabola. Whenever you mention the name of a chayla, in a way you are provoking midas hadin. But the benefit far outweighs the risk. Because after all, you daven, Kodesh Baruch Hu should send it forth. So it's preferable to daven without mentioning his name. And that is the mitzvah of Bikkur Cholim, because when you are in the presence of a Cholim, you don't need to mention his name. If you're not in his presence, then you need to mention his name, which has a downside. So some Achronim explain, whenever we daven for a Cholim, we daven Shekodesh Baruch Hu Yishlach L'fu Shleim L'Ploini Almoini B'toch Shar Cholei Yisrael. So when you daven for a tzibur, that is always ma'ora rachamim. That is a reason why the nusach, when we daven for a chodesh, is always b'toch shar chodesh Yisrael. So the Samsefer explains what is the benefit of Bikkur Cholim davening his presence, and that answers Rabbi Galasman's question: is there an inyan to daven dafka in his presence? According to the Samsefer, the answer is yes, because when you are in his presence, you don't need to mention his name. Let's move down. Our next source is a Magen Avraham in Siman Kuf Nun Tes. And that is the very first source. There's a difference, presence or not presence. And that comes from the Maharil. And that substantiates the Chasam Sofer. That is the benefit of davening in the presence of a choila, and that is the mitzvah of Bikkur Cholim. I lost you once again, and my screen went blank. Do you see and hear me?
Yeah, we hear the Rav, the Marmakaimis. There was some din on the Marmakaimis, but we're going to daven.
So we need rachamim. We need rachamim.
We need Rachman. It'll be back in a second, I assume.
Do you see me?
You have to daven for a computer these days also, as the Rav knows, so. We hope AI doesn't get people davening through that methodology. So
Yes, yeah.
I got
And
to Pesach. Yeah, sorry.
I hope AI wouldn't tell us who's going to live and who's going to die. Chas v'sholem. So
Okay,
the next question we ask, which tefillah is kroivo lehispalel when a person davens for himself or when a person davens for another? On one hand, Chazal teach us, hamispalel ba'ad chaveroi v'hu tzorech lo'osei davar neno techila. On the other hand, ein chovish mater atzmoi mebeis ha'asurim. Okay, so Aruch HaShulchan. כשמבקש רחמן החולה מבקש בפני החולה אין צורך להזכיר שמואל היום ישלח מבוא שלם על החולה הזה כמו שאמר משה רבנו אבל שלא יהיה בפניו צורך להזכיר שמואל ושם אביו או שם אמוי נברר בתפילוסי על מי מבקש רחמן כי התפילה צריכה להיות ברורה שם אביו או שם אמוי. Why is the minhag olam to use Shem Imoi? Scroll back up, not down, to previous sources. And that's the Gemara in Shabbos Daf Samach Vav Amar Abaye. Amr li Ein, Kol Minyona B'Shmo De'ima, B'Chol Kitra B'Smola, Rashi Kol Minyona Kol Achishot. And we use the name of one's mother, not the name of one's father. And why is a lachash called minyan? because in Lachoshim, in Kameis, in Zgulis, number 3 has significance, and that's why it's called Minyan. But nevertheless, what we learn in Rashi, in Arachish, we use the mother's name, and that is the source of the minhag to say, Pliny ben mother. But the Aruch HaShulchan in Lithuania, the minhag was either mother or father. Medrash Bereishis Rabo. Vayishma Elokim es kol ha'ara ba'asher usham b'sfus atzma yofet tfilas achoy li'atzmo yoter mekol. Which is a surprise. The Medrash says, a chodesh that davens for himself is more powerful than davening for someone else. The Mizrahi on this very same pasuk, Yofet tfilas achoylem et tfilas acherem, and he quotes the Medrash. And then he brings the Gemara and Brochas saying, Chodesh Matzah Asim Beis Asurim. How do we reconcile it with the Medrash? So the Marachi says, when a person is ill and in pain, he can't have proper kavanah. But if he could have proper kavanah, then his tefillah is more powerful than anyone else's. But so why do we daven for a chayla? Because when people are in pain and they're suffering, they have difficulty in kavanah. Sefer Hasidim has a somewhat interesting approach. כשמספלל על אחינו ונהנה ועל עצמנו נהנה, הרי אמרו, scroll down please, I should be able to see the paragraph. הרי אמרו כל מספלל על אחינו גם חפצי נעשה, כי אברהם שמספלל בעדה ומלך בתלת צורו. And that is where Chazal say, המספלל בעד חברה וצורך ליוסי דבר, is a greater sgula. So, the Sefer Hasidim actually says, when you daven for another person, it has more effect, kroivol espana, than when you daven for yourself. And that goes against the Medrash. So according to the previous source, if you could have proper kavanah, then your own tefillas are korev le'espalo than others.
There was a question here that the Elam raised, and maybe the Rav can instruct us. In the Nusach, which is inserted in Rifa'inu, which is from Kadmainim, it's structured only as a tefillah on someone else. The Tishach Meir Refuah Shem in Shamayim, Refuah Nefesh of the Gluf, L'chayla X Ben Y. According to this, first of all, the tefillah on the Chayla of Chayla himself should be stronger. How does the Chayla say this tefillah? What's the nusach that he uses? Tishlach li, or does he use nusach at all, or this is only for
all the brachas on Shmoyne Esra are formulated by Loshen Rabim from A to Z. Atochinen la'odem das u'melamed eneshbina v'choneinu, not v'choneini, which is Loshen Yochid, v'choneinu me'itcho, chochma bina v'das, de'obivat bina v'haskaru. All the tefillahs are formulated. Borcheinu ovinu kulona kiechot. That is mevorech hashonim. Borcheinu, for us, not for me. And the same is Lithuania. It's not about others. It's about Klal Yisrael. Bani v'soicham. And that is, as I mentioned a few moments ago, when you daven for the tzibur, it is always more powerful than davening for a yochid. And that is why even when we daven for an individual, we add on betoch shar chayli Yisrael. So it is incorrect to say that the Refuenu is about others. It's about all of us. V'gamani v'soichim, just like Choynen Adas, just like Borcheinu, Berchas Hashonim, Hoshivu Shoftenu K'morosheinu. It is all the brachas are formulated by Loshen Rabim, including the Refuenu. But that does not exclude yourself.
So the person should put in his own name, Beloshin.
No. His name is included because he's the one davening. Only when he wants to daven for another individual does he put in the name. You don't put in your own name because you're the one davening. You're davening primarily for yourself, but the nusach tefillah is for Klal Yisrael.
Okay.
When you say Tehillim, you say your name, but in Tefillas Amida and Shemar Nesri, you never specify your name.
Somebody lost one of the questions he's asking about Shema Kelenu. What about there where all sorts of tefillas can be added? Would you put your own name in, or you just it's understood?
No, I don't think so. I think you're always naturally included because you're the one that's davening.
Okay.
Okay, so we go down, scroll down.
Morale is next.
Excellent. And this is, once again, the Maral dealing with the very same question. Tefillah al atzmoi o al acher. And the Maral always has his unique approach. He quotes the Gemara. Lo yikere b'yochanan nafshei, ein chovesh ma'aseh tzvei shosiren. V'teretz hosam heichad olam motzeh mechaven nafshei. He quotes the Mizrahi that we had just a moment ago. The Maral is a different approach. Ein ze kushya. The Tefillah lo shaykh be ein chovesh ma'aseh b'sosiren. Tefillah kodesh baruch hu materoisa. Hosam domalai yov liyodech v'yoykmei is chazek atzmacha v'az yagia lecha ezer elokim. Any form of chizuk en chovesh mater atzmei bebeis asurim, but tefillah is different. I don't really understand what form of chizuk is there besides tefillah. So it is clear that the Maral comes to differentiate between tefillah and other forms of chizuk. He does not specify what chizuk is there besides tefillah. So the story in Masechet Brachos Daf Hey is, I think Rabbi Avu came to visit Rabbi Yochanan, and he gave him a helping hand to help him get up. And the Gemara brings that Rabbi Yochanan was a gibor. And the Maral says, tefillah is different. The tefillah of a person on his own needs is more powerful than anyone else's tefillah. In other forms of chizuk, ein chovesh mater atzmei bebeis asurim. So regarding this dilemma, I brought a Yerushalmi because I always learned a lot of Yerushalmi, and I didn't see anybody quoting this Yerushalmi, but it is interesting. Yerushalmi explains a posuk in Novi Yeshayahu. Shimo elai abira levar achoykim mitzedakah. What does it mean, abira levar achoykim mitzedakah? Ravavona. It's falgan of Yochanan v'Shlokish. Chadom. Kol bo yorim bo mitzedakah ve'era bo mizraya. All the goyim, whatever they get from HaKadosh Baruch Hu is chesed because they deserve nothing. But the tzaddikim come, they deserve rachamei shamayim. Charona Omar. The other has a different interpretation of the pasuk. Kol hatovis v'nachomes abos lo yinu b'schusanam. V'hen einom nehenem mehem klum. All the chesed that comes to the world isn't the source of the tzaddikim, but the tzaddikim themselves sometimes live in poverty and in pain. Kigol mazitr dematzal churnin umisane. V'anafshe lo misane. Marzutr was a great tzaddik. Whenever he davened for others, his prayers were fulfilled. When he davened on himself, his prayers went unanswered. This Yerushalmi goes against the Medrash. And I think it's a machlokes of Tanuim. This Yerushalmi says, when you daven for others, even a great tzaddik, your tefillahs are more likely to be answered than when you daven on yourself. So according to the Yerushalmi, it is so important to daven for others. You daven for me, I'll daven for you. And those are the greatest tefillahs. Very well-known Gemara in Bava Basra, Dorosh Reb Chuma Baruch, Reb Pinchas Bar Choma. Kol sheyesh l'chol b'torch beiso, yerech es l'chocham v'yavach shel rachamim. And the Meiri has a unique interpretation, different than all of the others. לא אילם יהי ליבו ישרודן בטוח שתפילו כשנאסס כי תקונה מבטרס הסקסיירה. מי שיש לו צער החולה בתוך ביסוי, או אחד ממיני הצורס, יצח חוכם, וילמוד ממנו דרכי התפילס, ויבקש רחמים. It's not the chochem should daven for you. He should teach you how to daven. And the Meiri is unique in this pshat. Then Muki Yosef definitely has a different understanding. He quotes the Gemara. Heavy begemora agav glora ketaftio. The minhag zebet sorfas kol mi sheyesh lo koila mevakesh bnei HaRav toifes yeshivish yevorech alisay. This Nemuki Yosef is one of the earliest sources. You go to a tzaddik and a chochem to ask for a brocha, not only a tefillah. You ask for a brocha. And the minhag in Tzarfat is you go to a marbetz Torah, to a toifes yeshiva, which is an interesting point. Obviously, the tefillahs of Marbitzei Torah have some more strength and significance. So the Nemuki Yosef brings the minhag in Tzarfat. You go to a chochem, to a toifes yeshiva sheyavorech alisay. So the Meiri, contrary to the Pushat of Pshat and Gemara, deals with the same dilemma. Whose tefillahs are more powerful, for yourself or for others? Now we come to a historical controversy, a Hasidic Maisa.
A question for the Rav, if we may.
Yes.
This what came up as we were preparing this. According to the Meiri, someone came to the Rav and asked him, "Yilmoid what does the Rav say if you want to be Mekayim this Miri? What does that mean? Is it unique to each person, or is it general to be general the daven well? What is the Miri? How do you Mekayim this Miri?
I think you're Mekayim the Meiri by the fundamentals. You tell a person he should have special kavanah when he davens in the Rifoeinu and in Shema Koleinu. You tell him the importance of saying Tehillim, because Tehillim is the greatest good to everything you need. The importance of kavanah Tefillah, the importance of Shari Dimo Lo Nin Alu. Your tears make a great impression by Shemayim. So try to daven from the depth of your heart and shed tears. Just the fundamentals about koyach tefillah. I don't know what to say besides the importance of kavanah tefillah and cry while you're davening and be'ikar refueinu and berachas refueinu.
I'll leave it the second. Okay, sorry.
I don't think I would go beyond that.
The question that arose in the Nemuki Yosef was when the Rav mentioned that this seems to be just a bracha. Is it not imputed in the Rishonim that the bracha means that the Rav Teifet Yeshiva or later the Tzaddik will be mispal for the person? Isn't that sort of like?
Yeah. Bracha and tefillah are very closely associated. Very famous Chuvas and Ashba. That Ashba says that bracha is the same letters as brecha. And brecha is like a well. And brecha symbolizes ribui shel shefa. It's like a well whose water keeps on flowing. And the Ashba explains, why do we need to daven? Why do we need to say brachas? Because that's where Kodesh Baruch Hu created the world. He wants to hear our tefillahs, and our tefillahs inspire shefa kodesh that comes down from the heavens. So bracha and tefillahs are closely associated, but they're not the same. Rashi al Torah, when a Kodesh Baruch Hu tells Avram, "Heyei bracha," Rashi says, "Heyei bracha." Kodesh Baruch Hu gave Avram the koyach to bench people. And then Rashi, when the Pasuk says, "Vayiten es kol asher lo liYitzchak," Avraham gave all he possessed to Yitzchak. Rashi writes, once again, Rashi al Torah, that Avraham gave Yitzchak The blessing HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave him, Heyei Bracha. And Rabbeinu Bachye, in Parshas Bezoisa Bracha, the last Parsha of Chumash Devarim says, that skula was passed on to Yaakov, and from Yaakov to all the tzaddikim in every generation. So what we learn from Chazal, there is significance to brachas, not only tefillas. Well, the Gemara says, Yerech etzel chocham v'yavakesh ulevrach. And then Amilki Yosef brings the minig, Hoyrech etzel toivus yeshiva sheyavorech oisel. So obviously, bracha and tefillah are very closely associated. And when a tzaddik gives a bracha, he actually is turning to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and asking HaKadosh Baruch Hu to bench a person. But it's not exactly the same. So when people come to ask me for brachas, not that I think I'm such a great tzaddik, but I wholeheartedly give brachas. Because we learned in the Nemuki Yosef, that was the minhag. You went to a Chochem Toifus Yeshiva Sheyavarach, I say. And I think in the realm of Toifus Yeshiva, I definitely fit into that category in 1,000 different ways. So whenever people come to me to ask for brachas, Mekol Alev, Mo'im Alev, because there is significance in brachas, especially when a person is a Toifus Yeshiva, like we learn in the Nemuki Yosef. Let's go over to the story of Zlotchev because it's interesting and I don't want to miss it. So this is a very angry tshuva of Reb Shloime Kluger. Uvachartu B'chaim is a sefer tshuvas published by Reb Shloime Kluger's son, Reb Avram Binyamin Kluger. But in this sefer, he printed many tshuvas of his father, Reb Shloime Kluger, most of the tshuvas. So this is a tshuva, La'anagida menale adas yishurim b'tzilachov. It's a ktani ruchi lo uchal adme. I can't ignore, I can't be quiet. Chil Shabbos ha-mishpota ka'esh boyer b'kirbi alei HaRav ha-mikulkeles asher nasa b'kilascha b'Shabbos ha'ovar asher hoyre moire echod l'chal Shabbos b'chilul achachilul lichtov kvittel v'sheyisa Yehudi yoysa megimel pasoes shel diuraisa besusim u'b'shlichas mois chutz letchum. They give a kvittel to the Belzer Rebbe. Arab Shloime Kluger writes at great length, and he puzzles this person from ever being a poisik again. The yellow print, just move over to the next column. From the yellow print, next column, two line, no, down. Soif Dover. Hamoira hazeh chilel Shabbos b'kama dvorim. B'chein, im yachzer hamoira leroa hazeh mahoira osoi, v'yezvade barabim, sheshguga hoya b'yodoi, v'lo yosef kera raitoi, v'im lo yedu, shekol ara oisem mekelkolen, v'im ukechaticha b'yisura mamish, v'al yismach olav b'shum hoira. V'na lo yedieni, mi hamoira hazeh asher or kochet kelo yachashe, v'lo yetin shenas la'im v'tner p'timo, afarsem keloinoi b'fnei kol Medina. Wow. This is a very angry psak. And he says, if he's going to stand up the rabbin and apologize and admit that he made a terrible mistake, then okay. But if not, I'm going to make this public in the entire world. And this man could give no psak ever in his life. Very angry. Tshuva. Shoylem Eshev was Reb Shloime Kluger's contemporary. And I once again apologize for a moment because I don't think we have the Shoylem Eshev on our source sheet.
We don't, I don't think. Do we ever find out who this person was? Is it recorded?
No. I want to get up for a moment and fetch a Shoylem Eshev. Just one moment.
Do we have it here? Pesach with this long one here, the film it? No.
Find it, gets it, and the vacancy is gonna be. He needs.
Which one would you like on the screen? No, it's the wrong Shoylem Eshev, my entire. Pesach, you're
Okay,
you're off
which
by
one
about
would you like?
500. You're off by about 400 years.
Which one would you like?
The Lemberger Rov. You want which one it is? Shalom Meshiv? No, not that one.
Yosef Shaul not answer.
Can I ask a sensitive question that Eilam raised here?
Yeah.
Both the Shlomo Kluger and the Shalom Meshiv were well known to be misnagdim. Could that have anything that added here to this Charoin Af, in addition to their understanding that it was Chol Shabbos?
I think very likely. And I'll tell you why I think it's very likely. Because soon we will see sources of Sephardi Gedolim who generally were far more mystical than Misnagdish Gedolim, who bring similar stories, and they are quite sympathetic. So I do think it has something to do with the fact that they were Misnagdim and they didn't have that much, belief in the bracha.
What's this? The Rav will give us the site on the Shalom Meshiv. We can get it open here through the machine.
I'm actually looking forward, and
1 second, I can look it up also.
it's not where I quoted it. Just one moment.
I have it. It's please saw. I'm just getting this out of the Rav's writings. Please saw Beis Kuf Pei. Rav Pesach, please saw. Let's see. Please saw Beis. No, you don't have that.
No. Tlisua Beis Kuf Pei is a different story. I wrote Tlisua Aleph Kuf Tzadik Dalet, which it is not. Just one moment.
Oh, that's a different one. Please saw. No, I have it here. Please saw Aleph Kuf Tzadik Dalet is your site. It's not there.
No. Just one moment. One moment again.
So while the Rav is listening, there'll be a Chazar shir tonight. There's always at 7. Tomorrow we'll have a shir on the perplexing question of the Mr. Brewer approach to Suda Kompot, where there's a big historical record here on a famous steer in the Mr. Brewer about Kompot. That's tomorrow. Tuesday, Rav Lindinsky will be here to finish Dvarim Bam Chasuda. And the usual, we'll be back to the normal schedule for the rest of the week. We're racing to try to finish as many sugyas as we can before the end of this month. Everybody hang on here for a second.
Okay,
we go.
so I do not find the Shalom Meshiv, and I strongly suggest let's move forward. Not that much nafkamina. But regarding the question you asked, would we assume that their hisnagdis had any effect on their psak? I think so. And shortly, we will see why I think so. So let's scroll down. Next source.
Which one would the Rav want?
Eishel Avrom, we go according to the Seder. Chodesh es v'kona. Lichte b'Shabbos kodesh yu v'roi fela chodesh es b'sekona. Im beroi ksi v'lo yover shayach tov. Shita. Makol makom lo yichte v'rak echreichi es. Ma de lo yisagi b'lavachi. V'lo yover b'goron asach as miksiv osoi. V'kol ze beroi f'mumche. Ma shenken b'mi sholeach achar ohavoi o mi sheyespalel ba'adoi. ein heter lichter, sorachli iun oid hatev. Now, I don't know whether you're aware that HaRav was a chassid. He was a chassid of the Chayzim and Lublin. So he doesn't speak about the story of Zlotchev because he was older than Reb Shlomo Kluger. He's not dealing with specifics, but he writes, you can be machal on Shabbos to ask a person to daven for you. But sorachli iun oid hatev. He's not as adamant as Reb Shlomo Kluger. And he isn't dealing dafka with a tzaddik. But obviously, if you want to write a letter to someone to daven for you, you wouldn't write such a letter to an Amoritz. So the HaRav says, L'choir it's asur, but it's still a tzorchi. So the HaRav was a chassid. Kosav Pesach Adviyah, Kapachayim. Master Shira Bismana Magefish Nastop Kofain Dalet Shani geproven. B'yom Shabbos Kodesh b'toch ha'Yevishim and Ochavoy b'kvar. Chol hoi mitztayel harmal shalom nimtza ochavetz levein yediyam achol yoy. Ritzon hoi yeshes parel al refosoy. V'gam hoi roitza letzavas al bona v'ktanim. Kol resoifa tugar. And he was mater almira lenochri. To let his brother know Vat Tefillah, vat Tzedakah, vat Tzedakah, mevatan etc. V'chein asa tugar. V'kiaksa b'Shabbos liyad shemen. V'kosav sham Pesach Adviyah. De'em b'zeh nidnud isur. So we're dealing with an Isur D'Rabbanan, Amira Lenochri, but still it's a Chiddush. He writes.
Who is the Pesach Advir, if we may ask?
The Pesach Advir was one of the Sfari Gedolim more than 200 years ago. Birkei Yosef is the famous Chida, Shin Aleph, and this becomes more and more fascinating. Masa beish echad shemotza skula achas b'sefer ktav yad ma'odam gorlam harishonim lemi sheshos asam hamoves lichtov loy v'teichev meki ha'odam v'choyze lebriuto ve'ire kama pomim she'ize nar umar nefesh b'kasa sheshos asam hamoves. וזה איש כוסף כמי הזו ועושה והצליח. והיא היום ליל שבס קודש. נער ישראל שוסס עשם המובס, ותחילה לא דברי כמיסה. So they came to this guy that was a mumch in Kameim. ביום השבס מוידה ביה כל השנה עשה ולעזור כל המדינה. שחיל על שבס בשעת נפש וכוסף ונוסה ביודו. והוא איש פיקוח נפש דרך השבס. והוא היה מגמגם מדובו. Shol ish im chote beze, he overall the Weiss of the Rabbanon. And now the Birkei Yosef goes into a pilpul, and he quotes the Rambam. You can be mechal Shabbos or eat Yom Kippur only for conventional medicine, but non-conventional medicines, gulas, are not permissible. Please scroll down. Kol shu b'derech zgulo. No, down, now. We went back up. Down, more. Here we are. So, he has a lengthy discussion. Towards the end of his discussion, scroll down another bit. Ochen ro'isi. Too far down. Ochen re'isi v'sefer Admas Kodesh, the beginning of this paragraph. And he brings various different sources. Are we Machala Shabbos, or do we eat on Yom Kippur for the fuas gulis? That is not natural, but rather non-conventional, or maybe even as good as kameis. Let's scroll down to the end of this paragraph. Down. Zeh wish to suffer derek is faker. וכוסף ונוסן לשי מצווה, ולא שאל רשוס, כיוון דשאול שפך לומר, אף לדעת הרמב"ם, שאין מכן השבס בדבר סגולה, ועל ידי הסגולה בסוס הפשס, נרד דלס ביסרחיס אפילו מלבונון, ולמפרע מצווה גדול לא עושה כן הרמי. So the Chiduk quotes the Admas Kodesh, if at the end of the day, this is going to prove to work, then it's a Tzoros Nefoshes. We cannot know in advance. But if it worked, then b'di'evet, we know it was permissible. Next source, and we go all the way back to the Rishonim. Refuah Machayim. Samamovis, last paragraph. Samamovis lemisha shosa oisoy moyel ero shemis shemeki kolasam, and he actually writes the shemis. Masa b'leil Shabbos Kodesh b'Yerushalayim b'zman HaRav Maharash Sharabi shosa son arachas Samamovis v'Harav neskar kosef shemis ilu b'nayar echod u'balo isoy u'baboy koisu briya v'toive v'moyel gam kelachol ha'mageifa. And he writes actually what the shemis were. And he also discloses the identity that the Kaf HaChaim tells a story. That was Maharash Sharabi, one of the great Mekubalim, more than 300 years ago in Yerushalayim. And that is the Rashash, the famous Rashash. Shuvas Chaim Shar, next source, which is actually a climax. Chaim Shar, Shin Aleph, second column. He speaks about the din of Kameya. Ro'isi v'sefer ksivas yad yoshon, an old ksav yad. Sherabeinu Peretz, one of the Valatoises Kosa B'Shabbos Shemis HaKodesh Gula Meduka L'Yosheves HaRamashbe. He wrote a Kameya on Shabbos for a woman that had difficulty in childbirth. And it's an Issa. But at the end of the day, his psak is הרמב"ם סויבה שאין אויבן על המיסס אלא ברפוש ובדרך הטבע. Because הוא האחרונים, we scroll down. הרמב"ן והרש בפליגי על הרמב"ם. תפילא רפואה בדרך כל שור עליו הרי סתוירו. ולפי זה אפשר דרבנו פרץ תפילה כסבור זכויות ברמב"ם. It's not clear at all that the Ramban and the Rashba disagree with the Rambam. In Minchas Osher, the new edition of Parshas Bechukoisai, there's a lengthy discussion about this question. So the story of Zlochev wasn't really a Kameya. Regarding a Kameya, we have Sephardi sources. Harashash, Balei Atoises, Rabbeinu Peretz actually wrote a Kameya in Shabbos. But what about the story with the bells thereof? One more source, Chuvas Marsham. I hope we have it on our sheet. Do we have the Marsham? Yes, we do. So the Marsham deals with the story. Ubedvar shiluach telegrama b'Shabbos v'tzorah choyle. Ma she'amru b'shem ha'gayved mepreres l'ka'is belavav she'etir b'sefro lo ykeinu.
Is that the first? Is that that's not the first?
The going he is referring to is the Beis Yitzchak. He was Rav in Premisla, and then in Lavav and Lemberg. He succeeded the Shoel HaMeshiv, and the Misham says it's not true. Because the Beis Yitzchak specifically asks writing a telegram and sending to WhatsApp. Shuva Shoel HaMeshiv Klisor Chelak Aleph Kuf Sadik Dalet. And maybe that is where I saw the source of the Shoel HaMeshiv, but it's not there. So I followed the Marsham, but we just checked that we didn't find it there. However, b'tshuva echad herachti, And I quoted, he quotes the Chidah, and he brings Rabbeinu Peretz, because the Masham was an amazing bookie. He saw everything. But let's scroll down. He quotes the Rabbeinu Peretz. And then he tells the story of Zlochov. Uvde Yadana, be'ir moladati b'Zlochov, shoya choyle mesuken. Obois izman oya meiri v'Rabbi Agon HaKodesh marash mebels, mishoyv si Shabbos Kodesh bebrod. And Zlochov is not far from Brod. Ve'hit yadayin echod lichtav aridei goy b'Shabbos Kodesh shem achoyle ve'ir moy v'shorach lebrod. Ve'hirish Agon marshak v'poser asadayin v'lahoyres oid. That's the story. That's the tshuva we saw in the Sefer B'chartu B'chaim. The Kvoid Moedi B'Rabbi Agon HaKodesh Nisraim Gam Ken Al HaKoysa V'Omer Achshav Ani Mechuyev L'Esametz Sheyaseg HaChoyle Refuah Shelo Yigram Al Yodi Chilul Shabbos V'chein Hoyo Shenesrapo U'B'kol Kehai Gavna Ein Loho Kol U'B'frat Adoras Ein Lo Kol Makam Etamim Al Yoytzik Azeh Amru Shabbos Yimalei Zoy Ku Refuah Kloy V'Lavoi. So the Marsham writes, Ein Lahakel, not nearly as angry as Shlomo Kruger, but he tells us the end of the story, the second half of the story. So the Marsham says that the Belzer was taken aback that there were Machal Shabbos to bring him a kvittel. And he said, now I have added value and additional impetus. I must see that this person has a refuah shleima, not only because he deserves a refuah shleima, but also to prevent Chilul Shabbos, which is an interesting statement because I don't think Chilul Shabbos ever depends on the result. When a doctor is Machal Shabbos in an operation and the person dies, would that be considered Chilul Shabbos? Chodesh Shvat going to eat in Yom Kippur and he dies. Would we say the mafreya that it was an aveda to eat in Yom Kippur? Of course not. The psak was a proper psak. It was a pikuach nefesh situation. So if it's mutar to be machal Shabbos to send the kfitl, doesn't really depend whether the person will have a refuah shleima or not. But this is not really in the realm of halacha. This is beyond halacha. So Reb Shlomo, the Marsham wasn't the Belzer Chassid. The Marsham was a Zidit Shoiva Chassid. But he also went to Belz because he was a Chassid. He went to Belz.
He writes Mari V'Rabbi, so, but I guess the general
Yeah, he
term.
does write Mori V'Rabbi. Yes, that's an interesting. He was known to be a Zidit Shoiva Chassid. But he does write Mori V'Rabbi, Reb Shalom Belzer. Yes, that is significant. So, Reb Shlomo Kruger and the Shoel HaMeisiv rejected this psak. Reb Shlomo Kruger extremely adamant. The Masham says, "Befrat an hour to Kufa. It could bring a peretza, mekam etamim." But he writes the end of the story. The Belzer Rebbe said, "This person must have a refuah, otherwise it would be Chilul Shabbos." And at the end, he did have a refuah. So the Sephardi Gedolim are somewhat more lenient than the Ashkenazi Misnagdim. If we still have 3 minutes, I would address the last topic in my simon and on the source sheet. Do we ever daven for a person to die? And this is a painful question. We never had as many desperately ill people as we have today, due to the advance of medicine and technology. A frum doctor recently came to spill out his heart. He was really broken. He works at an internal machlaka. And he says, in the machlaka, he has 30 patients with zero quality of life, all on life support, whether it's a ventilator or dialysis. And it's so pathetic and painful. But so these are difficult halachic dilemmas. And sometimes people ask, our loved one has extremely advanced cancer. and we know there's no way back. How are we supposed to daven? The Ran in the Durham says sometimes you daven that a person should die. And I wonder why the Aruch HaShulchan quotes him. We have to pass him from the Rambam to Shulchan Aruch. Neither the Rambam nor the two nor the Shulchan Aruch quote ask him that we daven for a person to die. And what I tell people is, when there's no chance b'derech hateva, the condition is irreversible, and death is imminent, and we feel it's futile to daven for a refuah shalema, and we know that it's like Kriyas Yamsuf. Should we daven, he should die, and I say no. You should daven Shakodesh Baruch Hu Yismalei Olav Racham, because that is a formula we find in Chazal. Sheyichbishu rachmecho es ka'ascham. Shakodesh Baruch Hu Yismalei Olav Racham, and Kodesh Baruch Hu should do the best for the chaylim. That is the nusach I suggest. But once again, I quote a Yerushalmi that I didn't see anybody bringing. And it's an important Yerushalmi nuance. Rav Ada bar Achva isyared lechad ba'anash. Mismaspes v'evemeis. Omer Rav Oven, nasa kus shavchu. V'nes ala olav sheyos. Rabbanan de Kislev number, nasa pitzu adaka v'nes ala sheyos. He had a child that was either a kushav or a psuadaka, and he could never marry. And this great Amoira, Rav Oven, knew that his life will be a life of pain and indescribable suffering. And he davened that Kodesh Baruch Hu should take his neshama away. So this is an important source. It's a Yerushalmi Mefurish, but nevertheless, it's not brought in the Rambam, not brought in Torah, not brought in Shulchan Aruch, and therefore not a loch of psuk. And I agree with the Moshe. The Moshe doesn't quote the Yerushalmi, but I agree with this psak. You never daven a person should die. And when there's no longer any hope, he should live. The nusach should be Shakodesh Baruch Hu Yismala Olav Racham. Okay, I hope today she was interesting. And we should share many, many divrei Torah. Thank you, Reb Shlomo.